Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented lightworkers and the influencers of our time. We are back to Astro Mingle today, folks, and I'm thrilled to be joined by not one, but by two guests tonight. First, a familiar face, Michelle Jones. She's been our guest before, and she's now back as a quantum embodiment healer, working at the intersection of body, energy, and higher consciousness. Please welcome back our Step 11 Cancer friend. And Michelle is here today to introduce to us someone she's been working with for a long time, astrologer Thomas Parsons. Thomas is professionally certified, created through both the American Federation of Astrologers and the International Society for Astrological Research. He's been practicing for over 45 years, blending classical astrology with psychology and spiritual teachings. He's a true expert on the history of astrology, and I'm excited to talk about generational shifts, our evolving, and galactic consciousness, and his predictions. So welcome to the show. So without further ado, please welcome both Michelle and Thomas to the show. Yay.
Hi there.
We are. Hello, everyone. Hey, nice to see you. Thanks for coming tonight. It's been interesting, the skies, for sure. But overall, Michelle, welcome back to Astro Mingle. You've been both a guest and a client. Our audience knows you really well, and that's a great thing. I'm honored about that. I think we should start with this particular episode about how Thomas enters into this story for you and what the backstory was with you finding him for astrology.
Yeah. So Tom he's kind of a national treasure, but in Tennessee, he's kind of a state treasure. He is the astrologer of astrologers. Like he is the only certified astrologer. If anybody talks to you about astrology, they're like, hey, you need to go see Tom Parsons. Tom is a very smart man who lives a little bit outside of the city. And so in order to go see Tom, you need to pack a lunch, as we say. So it took me a bit to kind of get to him. But once I did, about 5 years ago, it was during the, pandemic. Someone gifted me, one of my dear friends, Alicia, who's an awesome client of Tom's. She said, you have to see him. Mm-hmm. And immediately I sat down with Tom. Tom, I bet it was 3 hours, right?
Well, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. And they're getting longer.
They're getting longer.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was hooked. And I see Tom every single year. Sometimes I try to sneak in another visit, but Tom gives you a book of you for the year. And then I have you, Christopher, that fills in the daily rhythm. But I'm going to let you guys talk about this because I am so excited that both of you are finally getting to meet. Well, two of my favorite teachers.
What was about his approach that you were drawn to? I mean, did you know at the time?
Specifically, I had heard from friends that had readings with Tom that he did have like a real Jungian influence. And so I was intrigued because as a hypnotherapist, I thought, okay, this person has to be human-centered and person-centered. And that was really important to me because honestly, other than listening to you, Christopher, I was a complete newbie to astrology. So I wanted to feel like somebody received me, and understands that people come, the teacher appears when the student's ready. So his real human-centered approach. And I also had heard from a couple of folks that Rudolf Steiner was someone that he was very influenced, but that Tom, had a lot of influence from Steiner. And that spoke to me as an educator. Again, it went back to how a person develops an archetypal view, but from a person-centered, not from just outside, like in a Freudian way, like you're a subject. It's like you're actually an active human in it. And, one of the first things Tom said to me when I sat down with him, he was like, I like your disguise in this lifetime. and he made me laugh and he made me comfortable immediately because honestly, I was very intimidated by all of the degrees and the angles and the meaning of all of it and the math, and being somebody who likes math but not knowing it. I wanted somebody who would receive, me as a student, and that was Tom.
Well, I mean, just having a successful career in Tennessee as an astrologer, Thomas, you know what I mean? Like stands on its own as remarkable, because I lived in Arkansas when I was in high school. So I can't even imagine beginning that way. Welcome to Astro Mingle, Thomas. For those who have hearing about you for the first time, could you introduce yourself and share your journey into astrology and how it began during college?
I went to college late because I was in the service, and is what happened. And I'm from Detroit. I was living in Detroit, and the thing is that you taking the basic courses, psychology, philosophy, and reading about Adler, Skinner, Freud, and Carl Jung, and read this article by Carl Jung. He was talking about sun-moon cycles, out of the blue, but it caught my attention, is what it was. So certainly went up, to the library to, see if they had any books on, astrology, so to speak, and started getting more interested. It's almost like a narcotic, so to speak. It's like couldn't get, sort of like enough of it, is more or less like what it was. And then my family at the time thought I maybe needed to see a therapist. It is what it is, because nobody in the bloodline, you know what I mean, was went off on the exit, so to speak. Everybody was staying on the highway. And so from there, I was lucky enough at the time that I was growing up to, I went out to U of M to, I took an astronomy class out there, and became the laughing stock of the class because I just happened to drop that I was interested in astrology. And so that went over, and didn't go over that well. But anyway, there was a metaphysical bookstore out there that Michael Earlywine, which is the founder of Matrix.
Wow.
And so I would be going over there and became friends with him. And then actually I studied with him for about a year with sidereal astrology, as a matter of fact, because he actually got into Buddhism. He's been to Tibet quite a few times, as a matter of fact. And I like his software only because it allows the astrologer to change the interpretations, because astrology is constantly evolving. How I would look at it. And then hunted around for another teacher, and actually Ray Merriman. I got a chance to study with him for a couple of years, and both these astrologers made just such a dramatic impact upon me, is more or less like what it was. And so from there, I mean, I look back at it, and I look at it that I had a calling, but was totally unaware of it. But I think the first book I picked up, not just on astrology, was oh my goodness, Black Elk Speaks, because my bloodline is from Tennessee, and I am part Cherokee, is more or less like what it was. And then I got into the autobiography of a yoga, and read that, and actually started taking yoga 4 nights a week. And then I was studying, taking classes with astrology 3 nights a week, as well as like working a regular job, so to speak. And so that was the kind of like, foundation. And I'm still a vegetarian. Matter of fact, both my girls are vegetarians. My wife, because I do all the cooking, because grilled cheese and tomato soup got old pretty fast, what I mean? Some cooking classes. But my wife is actually an Ironman. As a matter of fact, she's going to the championships in Hawaii next year, as well as over in East France. And I walk up the stairs and I'm out of breath. But I have to feed her meat like 3 or 4 times a week. But and that led me into sort of like into reading books by Corinne Helene and Madame Blavatsky and Max Heidel, certainly Alice Bailey, and then I just got really entrenched with Rudolf Steiner and his teachings, as a matter of fact. And from there on, it was just a matter of I knew. Let me put it this way: I started to teach, but I knew the assistant dean of a local college there. And he said, "Hey, Tom, do you want to teach astrology at the college level? We can give it, put it under a social science credit. We can't transfer it to anybody other school." And it's like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a try. And I was really kind of surprised because, 30 seats and 30 people.
Wow.
And so I taught there for about, 6 or 7 years. And I went and told him, I said, I've just got to move on. And it's like, "Tom, what are you doing here?" And it's like, "No, I have to move on." It's more or less like what it is. And so, just got more into, and then, I realized it was important, at least to me, let me put it that way, to have credentials. Because to be blunt about it, there are prostitutes in every business.
Those crystal ones.
And so that's why I, took the American Federation test at first, 8-hour exam, but I like it because they have an ethics part of it also. And then, beyond that, then I, got with the ISAR, and but their test is about 4 days.
Wow.
Not only an 8-hour, but 3 days of psychological counseling as well as an ethics exam. But I just thought it was important. You know what I mean? Because like I said before, I just want to let people know that I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. I'm trying to elevate your spiritual awareness and resonate with what's going on with you, and try to be a compass, for what's going on in your life. And so from there on, it was just a matter of getting into different areas of astrology, compatibility and relocation. And actually I don't advertise it. I don't know if you're familiar with Jonas, that the birth control method of I forget his name, but he back in the 60s, he was a doctor, and he did he found out that there was a 1,500 women with 96% accuracy rate, by the way. That women were getting pregnant 67 or 65% of the time under a sun-moon cycle that every woman is born with. But knowing when that 2 to 3 days of sun-moon comes every month, you also can predict the sex of the child.
Wow.
And so I've done this, for I've only done it for 32 people. I don't advertise it, like I say, but I've been correct 31 times. And I look at that as the 96% accuracy rate that he had. And it really came in handy because I've got a lot of clients in New York, as a matter of fact, and they're young women. They've been trying to get pregnant, couldn't get pregnant. We're about ready to spend a lot of money, in the fertilization process. And it's like, let me give you these dates because I think you can get naturally pregnant within the next 4 to 6 months. 4.5 months later, the one got pregnant, and then she got pregnant again. And then her sister came to me also. And the same thing went on with her sister, so it's like the legitimacy, let me put it that way, because of what astrologers have had to deal with.
Right.
And I'm still dealing with, you know what I mean? That this is an hocus pocus thing. And it's like, look, wait a minute here. What is the sun doing with these, electromagnetic waves that come out and shut these satellites down, shut cities down back in, I think, the 80s, New York and Montreal.
Yeah.
What are they doing to the neurons in your brain? What is the moon doing? With your emotions and feelings, you know what I mean? And these things are in a set place, and as well as even the other planets. So it seemed to me that there, was a divine plan, and who's the author of that? To me, it's simply the prime creator.
I always find it funny, how it's just really funny how science won't study astrology, but yet criticize it. Where I went and studied science for at least 12 years in elementary school through high school. And so if we're going to debate, we're already starting off mismatched, where I've spent time studying their field and they haven't, spent any time studying ours. It's an interesting thing. It comes up a lot. It came up a lot when I lived in Arkansas as well. A lot, actually I would keep it quiet because I didn't want to be really judged, at the time for being interested in these types of hocus pocus. Yeah. I'm curious, Michelle, what stood out to you about his approach? How does his way of looking at astrology complement or contrast like what I do? I'm just curious how we're a little different. And by the way, sir, I'm going to say, I think you just increased your pool to like 96,000 as people find you after this. Women who are my clients trying to get pregnant are going to come after you, just so you know.
Let me say this too, that 90% of my clients are women. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, mine too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just that they just reveal, they take off that makeup. And that's what I like, so that we can really get into the meat of the conversation and what's going on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and patient enough to wait to hear it all out. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And the mother's intuition is strong and undeniable, right? So
Totally agree.
yeah. Yeah, totally. So yeah, Michelle, what do you see? I'm curious.
One of the things that I think was really interesting about Tom's approach was his realism. Like, Tom is a Libra, and he's going to give it to you straight. And he's going to kind of give you like the scales of how you get to decide. I understand, Tom, like when you were saying prime creator, source energy, God is who, but I also feel like, Tom, you really afford people that co-creation piece where you spoke to, and you told me backstage, and I didn't know this because I only know my sessions. You don't usually go into all the galactic stuff with people that you've done with me. I thought that was like one of your signatures, because that's one of the reasons why I keep coming to you. Is I feel like what you've told me about the galactic center, about myself, about a messenger from Orion, which I have a tattoo because of you. So no one had spoken to me in that way before, Christopher, about myself. And it was more of this remembrance when Tom started to speak. The bizarre thing is it didn't feel uncomfortable. I felt totally seen in a way that maybe I had not even seen myself.
Oh yeah. I mean, I understand that. The first time I had got a glimpse of a reading myself, I was blown away. I mean, the first response was, and I'd like to know about that with you, sir, Thomas, is that if, had you gotten a reading ever from someone before you went down the field, or was you just reading yourself through interpretation?
No, I didn't. No, I never did.
Yeah. Interesting.
I just, like I say, it was just one of those moments that, I don't know, it just piqued my interest because of the way that I was brought up, in the family kind of structure that I lived in, you know what I mean? That there was really no reason for me to even have an interest in that.
Were you into psychology and things like that, and the nature of people at all?
No, I took, I had a couple of years of child psychology. That's what I was taking. But then I had to work at a home in the summer at the time that I was taking it for, they called them retarded. And that was really an awakening. And I realized that I was a little bit too emotional, and I wasn't going to be able to deal with them objectively and rationally. So I wasn't going to be of any help, so to speak. So, you know what I mean? So I can pawn a little bit off of that, when I get in and talking to clients, like in some respects, but that was all I had. But there's a lot of astrologers out there that, have a very, very strong psychological background. I mean, even Ray Merriman, he was a psychologist that I studied with,
Well, wasn't Jung also an astrologer secretly?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's not published, but yeah. Maybe it was published in your field, but not regularly. People don't know that. But it seems like a lot of his work seems to be. I mean, I took a psychology at the time I was taking psychology the first time in college when I discovered astrology, and it just happened to be that I was studying psychology to learn. I was a film major, so I want to learn how to write good characters, and so I was diving deep into that, and I stumbled upon someone who's an astrologer, starts to do a reading for me, and I was blown away. I'm like, psychology can't even leave a spark to this. Like, everything I'm studying is just not at all. And I can't believe that our world is actually regulated by a science that is so imprecise. You know what I mean? And and waits for the customer to tell them who they are. That's ass backwards to me. So I have a system that I don't know if you know about. It kind of breaks down conscious into steps and emotional cycles based on the degree of the planet. Your work, I hear, is an approach to human nature from archetypes and transits. Can you talk about your method?
Yeah, I simply, first of all, when I look at the chart, I'm looking at the natural aspects of squares, oppositions, conjunctions, where they are to, it sort of like warms me up, like in some respects. But I really deal when they come to me for a reading. I don't exactly get into a personality analysis any longer. I found that people sometimes don't really want to hear about themselves because I look at it this way. You're paying me, and I'm not putting lipstick on anything. is how I would look at it.
Big.
So I realized that I was making people a little bit nervous and agitating, and so I don't do the personality analysis anymore. I do just the predictive. And I start with and I take them out for about the next 2 years. So I'm looking at the transits, the 5 major transits, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto is what I'm doing. And I usually start with Pluto because Pluto's in our life for 2 to 2.5 years in a transit.
Yeah.
So obviously it's going to be having an extremely dramatic impact upon people because it's like sort of like an externalization of the subjective states of our being.
Yeah.
That's coming to the surface and kind of like waking you up, to this masquerade. And when we have Pluto, it's in for 2 years because you don't rewrite your script from the inside out in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. So this is the most dramatic planet, so I like to talk about it first. And then I talk about Neptune and Uranus, and last of all, Jupiter. And of course, Jupiter moves so quickly. So there's a lot of Jupiter, conversations going on with, just about every client.
Like every Sag just kind of steals the conversation.
Yeah. And I try, when I talk about them, so my dialogue is because most of my clients demand it, is that I'm talking about maybe changes in the career, changes in your finances, where you're moving, relationships, and your health, when to have children, when to make a major move. Is this job change the right time for you to make it? And so I deal with things that they can sort of relate to. And then to some clients, like Michelle, I will see planets like, let's just say the galactic center at 26 or 27 of Sag, or Arcturus, at 22 degrees, or M87 at 2 degrees of Libra and 22 or 23 degrees. And when I see, or like in Michelle's case, Sirius and Orion, planets that are conjunct, because I like conjunctions with the fixed stars. How I would look at it. I don't like the squares. I don't like the sextiles and, those other kind of things. Let's go there and get there, right there, because a conjunction is going to do that. And so when I see that, and simple examples like, Martin Luther King had, his sun sign, I believe, was, conjuncting the galactic center. And so Pluto deals with masses of people.
Yeah.
It deals with power, the hurricane, the hydrogen bomb, life and death. These are dramatic issues, that, no lipstick required here. And so, so that's why, I sort of let's get into the meat of really what's going on with you. You know what I mean? Because one thing about Pluto is that it's not here for 2 years to have a casual conversation with you. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Ironically, I started with Pluto also, but it's because Pluto represents the number 0 in my system, and so 0 comes before 1, and so it's the foundation of all the entire chart. That builds up through the steps to 11, And if you get 0 wrong, you bet 1, 2, and 3 will be wrong too. So it's like, you know, and really to me, Pluto is a boundary defining agency, force that kind of like carving the Grand Canyon. It will happen, you know, like at some point. Yeah, it's a force of nature, you know, which brings me to an interesting topic I wasn't going to talk to till later, but you brought up Pluto already, and that is just the moment we're in right now. I mean, we have the return of Pluto into Aquarius after having gone through Capricorn, and the last time that this happened was the founding of the United States. You know, and our forefathers. Yeah, and our Pluto, our natal United States Pluto is 27 degrees Capricorn, if I'm mistaken. So you know, so we ourselves as a nation have a, you know, let's say, what would you say? What would you say the United States issue is with Pluto, you know, that high up in Capricorn? Do you have any insight to that?
You know, Capricorn, I mean, I can look at the founding fathers. Let me look at it that way. Okay. Gotcha. Is that because Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, rules, regulations, morals, values, ethics, the 10 commandments. What a great foundation, you know, but unfortunately, you know, it's like, it's almost like every society has a Pluto cycle, like the Romans and the Greeks and things like that. So, I mean, we're starting to look at China, and it's, you know, starting to flex its muscle. You know what I mean? So it's interesting because it's like, you know, we're not exactly going to bow down to that. You know, is how I would look at this. But
interesting.
I would just look at it. The same things are going on. I mean, we developed you know, a lot of new things at that particular time. I mean, it was just not the revolution and breaking away from, you know, the authority figure, you know, so to speak, so that we could be, you know, a little bit more independent and use our taxes, I think, to, you know, build our own schools and things of this particular nature. So, but this came from within. I mean, this is when society put on their breastplate and basically said, enough is enough. You know, Pluto deals with regurgitating, you know, is how I would look at it. You know what I mean? And getting rid of the waste products, so to speak. I mean, even the flush toilet was invented at that particular time. It's like,
really,
like an example. Yes, it was.
I had no idea. First thing we flushed was Great Britain. That's interesting. And tea overboard.
Yeah, and that's what Pluto's all about. You know what I mean? It's like, let's you know, empty out and you know, get into renewal and take control, take charge, and, you know, and be independent. You know, you know, is more or less like what it is. I mean, even the French Revolution, I think, went on at that time, right? With the guillotine, and so here was a revolt. You know, well, I'm just wondering how many revolts there were, because these are easily recognizable. You know, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, but I'm just wondering how many other revolutions were really going on at that particular time, because it's global. Pluto's global.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so with that said, here we are again. You know, and you know, Pluto's been in Capricorn. I mean, we saw COVID and things like that with Pluto in Capricorn, and now Pluto's in Aquarius. I believe the American Revolution ended with Pluto at 4 degrees Aquarius. So it's interesting because we're just about there, but there's no official war now. So it makes one a little nervous. Where have things progressed, you know, and where have things, but do you see parallels between the two times right now? That, and so maybe
absolutely. I mean, and let me put it this way. I am unbiased when it comes to the government. Okay. And who's the president and who's not president? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel that you need to be,
clear.
I don't know.
Clear.
To go to Washington in some respect. But yeah, I mean, let's look at what's going on, you know, in the world at this particular time. I mean, there's a major division that we want to get into. It's almost like, you know, Aquarius. I mean, we want to, you know, be able to express our rights and get into harmony and be able to, you know, instead of putting soldiers on the border, let's like, you know, embrace the world at large. But you don't do that in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. But it's being hatched. I'll put it that way. But the thing is that each country now is the humanitarian virtue that's going on. I mean, we see what's going on over there in Palestine, but we also see, what's going on, with the division with the Muslims, as well as like, the Christians, and so to speak. And so obviously, this is going to be, escalating more, because, the bottom line is that each person or each society in some way thinks they are right. And, that they are going to give their individuality and originality and identity to what they are preaching, so to speak. And then let's understand also, I mean, the tariffs at this particular time. Well, all the European countries are, they're about ready to, go into a recession at this particular time. You know what I mean? It's more or less like how and Pluto does deal with the 8th house, which is other money. The Scorpio, the investments and things like that. That's why gold is like, out of sight at this particular time. And Michelle and I were talking earlier that Jupiter is going to go into Leo next year, which is ruled by gold.
Yeah.
So, I just think that some people are talking about it reaching 5,000. Well, I thought, a couple of years ago, I thought it would go to 35. You know what I mean? So it's outseated what I thought it was going to be here in 2025. That's for sure. So I have no reason to think that that's going to go on. And then people are worried about the stock market because Pluto rules that kind of stuff. But I would look at it that I think the stock market is maybe will have some dips here and there, but I would be surprised if not by next June, it's not like the Dow isn't at like 49,000, something like that. I mean, because when Trump came in, it was 39. I think it's at 46 today, something like that. You know what I mean? So it's just, it keeps going up.
Yeah.
But this is what Pluto is, the reconstruction from the inside out, the bare essentials. And that's why people are looking, I mean, people are starting to see through the veneer of life. And this is what Pluto is, the detective, the strategist. What's under the microscope, what is causing all of this?
Yeah.
So to speak.
The Scorpio woman who can see through your lies, the Scorpio man who can get you home. Both of those magic radars that we all see in Scorpios. We're going to take a little quick break. This goes by so quickly, talking shop here. When we come back, I want to ask you kind of about Uranus and Gemini and how the last time it was in Gemini was World War II, where we saw like technology go from airplanes to rockets to the moon. So let's talk about Uranus and Gemini.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk about that when we get back. We'll be right back, folks.
Okay.
This Scorpio season, embark on a journey of self-discovery. Create your soul manifesto. Unveil your purpose. Live your truth. Welcome to 40 Days of My Truth and Purpose. Enrolling now, only at Sirius Joy Academy.
Hello, we're back, and that's interesting too. That those commercials came up when they did. That's so funny, interesting. But we were talking about planets and transits and the astrological function here, and I was saying just laid out the groundwork here that looking at history right now, we're in a phenomenal moment. We have Pluto where it was the American Revolution. We have Uranus where it was in World War II. We have Neptune where it was in the Civil War. Right. So it seems like we have everything blowing up around us at the same time. How do you see the parallels of Uranus and Gemini to that time in the war? I mean, already unfolding because Uranus just dipped its toe in. It's going back into Taurus for a minute, which makes me wonder, well, the stock market, how will that react to going back into Taurus?
Well, I looked at it this way because, I mean, everybody is certainly concerned about the stock market, which I would be also, you know what I mean? But like, as I said, if there's going to be, I think if the stock market is going to take a beating, it's not going to be until Saturn moves into Aries, which is going to be next April.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when I would start seeing the first signs that there could be some problems, that could, be, I don't think it's going to bottom out, anything of that particular nature, but, certainly if it's going to lose like 1,000 points or something like that, which it could, possibly do in like 1 or 2 days, people will panic, obviously, that kind of stuff can more or less like go on. But I thought that like, for the long run here, I thought it was going to be, I mean, even during World War II, the interest, I mean, the stock market, it actually did go down. But the thing is that we started winning the war, and then it started going back up again, as well, like what happens. But yeah, I don't like Saturn and Neptune being in Aries. I mean, Aries, there is no excuse that you can give Aries. Is how I would look at it. You know what I mean? Because it'll slap you across the face. Is what it's going to do. Is how I would look at it. In respect. I mean, it's very assertive. It's not going to take no for an answer. It's not going to surrender. You know what I mean? And boy, if you start pressing the buttons, it's coming after you. And so that's why I think it's like. Aries is pretty impulsive, you know what I mean? It's not going to negotiate. It's going to strike, with the snap of a finger. And so this is why it deals with war, because we're not going to have people with Uranus being in Gemini and Pluto, being in Aquarius. It's easy to say everybody's coming together when we're all going to be holistic, plant medicine, light medicine, and you know what I mean, and natural foods and all this kind of stuff. Is coming back, which I realize is going to be happening. You know what I mean? But the thing is that I don't know, Saturn on the Neptune. I mean, it is in a wonderful. What is it going to be in a sextile to Uranus? You know what I mean? So I think that they're going to see that I think there's going to be skirmishes that are going on, and I think this thing with Ukraine to be. I think this could be wound up in the next maybe 30 days because Jupiter's in Cancer. And this is family. I mean, when we really look at it, we are really all family. And the toll that it's taking not only on Ukraine, but, Russia and the economics and the children and the fathers and the sons and wives and all of that. This is barbaric.
Yes.
Is more or less like what it is. So I think that we're going to have some people sit down and, come to conclusions here. But yeah, I would agree with you that I don't know who we're going to go to war with, you know what I mean? Or, who NATO is going to go to war with. But I don't think it's going to be Russia. I don't think it's going to be China. I mean, I think China is just going to make a deal with Taiwan. You know what I mean? That like, hey, look, we want to take you over in a very civil way. We'll give you about 10 years, like we gave Hong Kong 100 years, But I noticed that one of the major chip makers that make chips throughout the world, that was in Taiwan, they've relocated to Germany. So that got pretty interesting, is how I would look at it. But yeah, I would agree with you. So I think from April on, to me, that's an uneasy period. Is how I mean, who's going to flex their muscle, at that particular time, at the wrong moment, and that the repercussions are more than what they expect.
Yeah. I see. We agree. I've been tense about April, tense about Aries coming up for some time. This next Aries. Also, excuse me. I wonder too, like, I don't know if you observe this in your clients, but I see a lot of sun sign only just from comments and things like that. And it seems like the Aries are changing. It's like they're certainly out of a job. The age of Aries, gave us, warfare and domination. Age of Pisces was so weak, the Aries just kept in charge. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And here we go to Age of Aquarius, and it's like, women are equal now, and more so than ever in history. It's like, and it seems like, Libras are getting stronger and Aries are being more sheep-like to some degree. Do you see an evolution in the core signs at all, or do you see them as just generation by generation going through phases?
No, I agree with you. I think it is in the core signs, what I mean, especially the cardinal signs. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they are affecting them. And it's a time, especially like with Pluto, you know what I mean, working from the inside out, so to speak. What I tell clients sometimes that are going through, especially Pluto, you know, Pluto is very subterranean. But we have to understand subterranean means gold, platinum, silver, the riches that are contained within you, and you need to let it out. You know, is how I would look at it. But this is why I think that gold and silver are, you know, rising in. But I agree with you that Aries is not so much about what they want, need, and desire, as well as their cardinal signs. But I think that to me, I think they're exhibiting more of a holistic kind of behavior. I guess is how I would put it in some respects.
Yeah, the opposite qualities. I mean, I'm finding that in Pluto, and I'm finding that with Aquarius and Leos. I'm seeing Leos be quiet and Aquarius just speak out. You know what I mean? Like I'm seeing
put that in writing.
I'm seeing Capricorns do dishes and Cancers play the stock market. You know, so it's, you know, it's like raining cats and dogs. It's an interesting moment. I don't know if that happens naturally. We don't always hear about the people and we hear about history, but now, Michelle, you have a profound understanding of human behavior. That's the way you've spoken about before. How do you see astrology helping people move through their emotional and psychological growth, especially with your Cancerian superpowers?
Yeah, I feel like it really can support you because, you know, as we were talking about, this is tumultuous times, and a lot of people are feeling, I don't know, but like a bifurcation. You know, some folks are like really hitting these high points in their lives, like, wow, I'm discovering who I am. This is incredible. And then you have other folks that are like, is the world going to end? Like, are we going to blow? So I think that one of the interesting things about human nature is that we forget that there's a choice, right? Oh, yeah. Like we get to choose this matrix that we're playing in. And so I think that one of the most profound realizations that astrology has really supported me in is knowing who I am in the matrix that I'm actually generating and transmitting. Like, as much as I'm a receiver, I'm a transmitter. And for me personally, had it not been for astrology, I don't think that I would have recognized emotionally how I can still be me in the midst of everybody else doing what the world is going to just do. You know, as an empath, that 11-degree Cancerian, you know, it's like I almost felt like somehow by feeling it, I was I was helping it. And actually the best thing I can do is send it love, send it peace, and send it my belief and my faith and my trust that the world knows that they didn't sign up to just blow ourselves all up. Like, that's not what we signed up for. And I feel like astrology for me has supported, like, it's given me this mathematical, you know, understanding that, yeah, I don't have to just go with what my gut is telling me and my heart's telling me. There's also objective. Sorry, y'all, that's my 23-degree Gemini. I need to have some of the objective data also. And, you know, Tom and I were talking about before the show, like, what if when Jupiter hits Leo, like, what if gold is reevaluated? What if we actually, rather than when we collapsed it all, you know, like at the time of the central banking rise, what if we actually unleashed it because we realized that we have even more than we thought, but yet there's still this fixed amount of it. And then what does that do? You know, and I tend to be, as the Cancerian, right? I want people to feel good, right? That's why I see Tom, who tells me, listen, we're not going to put lipstick on this pig, Michelle. Like, this is the reality, you know? And then you, Christopher, tell me, okay, so these are the steps that we're going to take to navigate this reality. And when you realize ultimately you're the one generating it, the empowerment that you feel from that, I personally received it from astrology, from both of y'all's work with me as a client. I hope I answered the question.
I think you did. We're getting super deep here. I love it, though. Thomas, do you see astrology reflect emotional evolution of the species? Like, is society getting better? or is it everyone have to go through the same cycle? How do you look at the emotional patterns?
Well, I look at it that it's getting better because, it's even going to get better because of Uranus being in Gemini, which is communication and having unorthodox ways, of like sort of like educating people, because there's a major shift in energy that's basically going on. But I don't know how you exactly practice it, but it's like I let the people know when there's an opposition or a square just as much as a sextile or trine or conjunction or inconjunct. I use those aspects. But I let them know, that certainly life is a roller coaster and we're going to have our ups and downs. But at least being in the astrologer and we know the planet, we know, especially like just let's assume a square, which many people look at as a very negative aspect. And the thing is that, yeah, okay, a square, basically is going to cause you to, to want to put yourself in, a cocoon, because the outside the door is extremely barbaric, but the thing is that we know now, the client knows when this period of time is coming, how long it's going to last, what department of life it's going to be in. And so I think that, they're much better equipped, to handle that energy. I mean, to me, the typical example has always been that it's pouring rain outside. Well, you know it. Let's prepare. I'm going to get an umbrella. I'm going to get wet, but I'm not getting soaked. And I think this is how astrology, at least the way that I, present it to my client, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is coming just as much as an opportunity is coming, especially for like job changes, and things of that particular nature, where sometimes people don't underestimate themselves. Why aren't you opening up your own business? You have 3 planets in the 10th house of the career. What are you doing here?
Yeah. Well, the great thing is it resonates every time. The client's like, I know, I thought about it. Like that's the thank God. When you're first starting out, it's just the eyes open, go wide, and they're affirmed in what they're thinking. And that's, I think, the biggest magic there is. I always say a good reading, it doesn't tell you very much new, but it affirms everything you knew. In most cases, like, you are affirmed in things that you were suspecting, but just couldn't put words to. That's what compelled me in the first reading I got from someone, which is what converted me, was just like, how does this person know this? These are my most private thoughts. I share with anyone I've ever dated or anything. It's just interesting. And the other final thing too is like, gosh, are we really just on a pre-made film? Like, is there any free will? Because it can be so accurate at times. It's stunning. We just fall right into it. Michelle, what's it like working with 2 astrologers who, one used to be behavioral step model and the other one who works with archetypically? How does that expand your self-awareness? Like, how does that combination give you peripheral?
For me, it was like opening up a map of what I was able to actually create. It was like living with intention was great, but living with a creative intention, to put something out as well as to receive in, is such a different way to live one's life. I was living with purpose, I was living with intention, but I was not living with creative purpose and intention, that I was like an active creator. And that's really what the archetypal and the step astrology simultaneously brought me, because, again, the dumbass and the smartass, Christopher, as you and I joke around about, like, literally I had to see this from other angles. Because for me, one of my life issues, my Chiron, wound, if you will, is in the I am, in my Aries, right? At 14, like, it's like about what I feel and think about myself. So anytime I can have that independent verification, like from you and from Tom, I'm like, okay, guess what? You know what? The only person who isn't certain of it is me. And I'm able to actually accomplish these things. I can do these things. Tom's been telling me, like, teaching, preaching, getting the message out. And I was just like, okay, what does that mean? And it took you saying to me, Christopher, okay, let's do this. And you guys also work with clients in such a complimentary way that I get to catch you, Christopher, monthly in terms of the diamond, program that you have. And Tom, you give me so much on the book of me for the year that it just supports the juxtaposition of both that big picture with the transits going down into my day by day, step by step, and then month by month. I mean, even daily at times.
Yeah, it's one of the convincing parts about astrology is that you look at it at any angle, whether it's even Western, tropical, and just sidereal, it's like you're still seeing the same damn reading. You're seeing the same things, like how different, which makes sense. If I look at this glass of water, if I look from here, it's always a glass of water. Whatever perspective I look at it, it's fascinating that way. But it's compelling. And Thomas, doing astrology for more than 45 years, bravo, by the way, bravo. I have to say, especially in the times you started. I mean, I remember the attitude of astrology, back in the early 80s. I guess when you started, is Linda Goodman or die? What shifts have you observed amongst the generations going through these? I'm curious with your astrology and conscious work.
Most of my clients are basically the millennials, but I will say this.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, but the thing is that I have a few, back in the 70s. I'll put it that way. You know what I mean? And they come to me about every year and a half is what they do. I usually have about an 85% return is what I have.
Wow.
But the thing is that now, this year, I was talking with Michelle earlier. Now I'm starting to get these people of what we call the Gen Z that are born, from 95, 96 up. And I mean, it surprises me is really what it does. But these people, when they come, they are ready. They are listening, is more or less like, so I don't have to really explain where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of.
Yeah, a lot of embarrassing talk, especially in the deep South. What do? You say you're an astronomer? Not quite.
Well, it's interesting because you say Arkansas, because I go over there once a year, right outside. It's by Hot Springs. I'll put it that way. It's close, Benton, Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if you're familiar with Bonnie McLeese at all.
No, but it sounds.
It's a international psychic, as a matter of fact, is what she is, and she and I are close friends. But she invited me over there to do a lecture, as a matter of fact, and so I was lucky. I've been lucky enough to go over there, and do lectures. And the first lecture I remember when I was there, they said, "Tom, look, there may be about 25 people here." That's okay. That's fine, because the woman that was putting me up in her home anyway, so there's no big deal. 125.
Wow.
And I was kind of, I don't mean to stereotype states,
Don't let your Yankee show, Tom. Don't let your Yankee show.
Exactly.
Tom, be careful.
It's all the crystal that they sit on, Tom. It's all the crystal.
It is. I'm telling you like that. I'll be honest with you, because the stage I was on, because she had like about 20 acres out there, and it's all crystal. But they had built a wooden stage out there that holds, my God, at least 100 to 200 people. And I was standing there going through during the day, going through the preliminaries to the mic check and that kind of stuff. And as a matter of fact, my friend Bonnie was there, and I said, Bonnie, I said, I gotta get out of here. I gotta move. She said, well, the bathrooms are over there. And I said, no. I said, I'm getting dizzy here.
Wow.
It's almost like if I step forward, I seem to be kind of like in a different dimension of reality.
Wow.
That I'm not sure that I can control. And then if I step back, oh, well, yeah, here's everything. Didn't leave anything. And so it's been one of those things. So I actually want to go back and, sort of like just sit down and get back into my yoga days and meditate and see what these crystals are going to, kind of break up. I mean, even in my office up here, I've got like about 100 crystals, and most of them are gifts, actually. That's what they are. But I have a big one, as a matter of fact, from Arkansas.
Uh-huh.
I remember when we were there with my wife, looking, and I said, listen, there's a place that's about 15 miles out of town. I want to go there, because the others were just gift stores. I mean, you know what I mean? It's more or less. So we went out there. It was a trailer. So we go in the trailer, and I have friends that are into, fossils and those kind of things. And he had those, trebulites, where they blasted them out. So it looked like a real huge bug, on this rock. And I thought, man, this is pretty interesting. And he said, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm looking for some crystals. He said, well, just go out the back door. There's 3 acres of them out there.
Wow.
And so we walked out the back door, and my wife said, look at this. How are you going to know which one it is? I said, it's going to call us. It's going to call me. Don't worry about it. Let's just start walking. So I got a huge one, about like this and about like this. And it took it in, and I said, oh, how much is this? And $75. And I thought, $75? My God, this is about an $800 item.
Yeah. No, okay.
So it sits here. It's right here.
I covet that crystal every time I come in, Tom. It's such a fabulous one. Yes.
It's true. I mean, Arkansas is a very calm place. I went to high school there, and and it's rumored that Atlantis would mine all of its crystals in the Arkansas region, for its weapons and stuff too. It's really interesting. I want to kind of wrap up our show with this idea of galactic consciousness, Tom. Like, what you've spoken about that. What does that concept mean to you, and how does it tie into humanity's awakening right now? What is galactic consciousness? What do you teach with that?
Yeah, I think, like you're saying, humanity's consciousness, because of Pluto being in Aquarius and Uranus especially being in Gemini, that people are looking for more quantified answers to the third dimensional world that we live in. Mm-hmm. And we've been trained, I really got into the ancient astrologers because they went outside our solar system. They went into Orion and the Pleiades and, Lyra and Vega and things like that. And a lot of contemporary astrologers want to stay contained within our solar system.
Yeah.
As well as, like, especially the asteroids, they're 6 or 7 asteroids. And it's like, it's really interesting because there are over 2,300 near-Earth asteroids, and why'd you pick these? Is how I would.
Yeah.
And so I'm just looking at it that constellations and these heavenly bodies out there, whether we recognize it or not, are giving off energy.
Yeah.
And I think as I think each person can elevate themselves to receive, the indoctrination, so to speak, of this energy, and then learn to utilize it, is what it is. But I think that this may be a moment that people are craving, this dramatic shift, that's going on, which I think that they are, maybe that calcified pituitary, is sort of like, getting massaged a little bit. So I think we're going to be responding, more and more, because it deals with our spiritual evolution, working through the human entity, because the soul has embodied itself in us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the latest from the astronomers, look at this. A couple of trillion galaxies, about 800 to 900 billion stars in each galaxy, and then 1 trillion planets in each galaxy. So I'm letting people know, it's like, absolutely, you can come back here and embody yourself to finish whatever you've got to, do here as a human being. But maybe this is your last rodeo, and you're going to go on to a planet in our galaxy or a planet in another galaxy. And then, we have to get into how massive this is. We travel at a million miles an hour. Our galaxy is traveling 1 million miles an hour, and it's been doing this, 12, 13 billion years?
Mm-hmm. Incredible.
Where are we going? What are we doing? So the longer that we go, I think we literally understand this is a divine matrix. It's up to us to elevate ourselves, to connect. We've connected with the moon and the sun. Absolutely. But now astrology is bringing in the other planet. Then it's a matter of like bringing in these constellations like Orion. I mean, what the pyramids.
No, yeah, pointing straight to it. It's kind of cool.
The Mayans, the Mayans saying our ancestors are from there. The Hopi Indians out northern Arizona. 7 mesas for the 7 stars that are in Orion. What a coincidence!
I know. Yeah, I agree. It's funny when you look at this, the evidence. Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you. I feel like it will go galactic. I mean, I think the UFO watchers are unified, saying that we're just a year or 2 away from some sort of proof or whatnot.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so that immediately opens up, well, what system are they from, and blah blah blah. But I also look at it in the sense of of incarnation. I believe in incarnation and reincarnation, and so I would imagine that to some degree, when I'm looking up Orion, I'm looking at home, like home. 500 incarnations ago, perhaps before the Earth was created, when we were hanging out on Orion, or that area. So it's like, is it a familiar? Is it a remembering? Is it, it's the light you remember? So it just goes back in infinite matters. And then yes, the fact that Earth has never been the same spot once. Because of that, it has never been the same spot once. It never comes back to the same spot. It makes me think that, empty black space is probably just the recording method of the Akashic records, or, because if you're just always been moving, it's like a record. You have record of time and space right there because of that movement. So yeah, it's really fascinating. I agree. And I find the younger millennials and whatnot are more interested in those galactic. They're more curious than I was. Those other, constellations, and outside, there's more than 12 constellations. You know what I mean? There's many, and they form these, and these are all universally recognized around the world by different people, different cultures that did not have access to each other, and they all saw the same darn image a lot of times. Sometimes different, but it's fascinating when you get to those star clusters, because you're really about hitting conscious notes, right? Together.
I think that's a good word right there, because I think this is what's happening to, this new generation, whether they understand it or not. Their consciousness is like growing by leaps and bounds, and it's no longer from my era, the Ozzy and Harriet home life any longer. You know what I mean? It's like I am part of the galactic whole. I want to know more about this.
Yes.
Things of this particular nature, let alone my fellow brothers that occupy other planets, other dimensions, other constellations and things of this particular nature. And this is Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini, demanding right here through our neurons that we're tired of like what's being fed to us in in school, so to speak, our educational system, our government, things like that. And to think outside the line, be that rebel, be that outlaw, and don't go along with these programs, and start thinking for yourself. What are your wants, needs, those kind of things, as well as like what do you really think about this? And don't be afraid to expose it. Get off the highway. You know what I mean? Take the exit, because the exit's going to be the compass.
Very interesting. Well put. And I think with the invention of AI,
oh God,
I see Uranus and Aries. I see AI as the biggest. Whoa, holy moly! Splitting of the atom. Perhaps the last time Uranus and Aries. The application of splitting of the atom. We knew it split. We just now used it for something. And then and now AI.
Digital consciousness, right? Digital consciousness. I've been given a download that, you can call it artificial intelligence, just like you could call aliens star brothers and sisters or extra dimensionals. But with artificial intelligence, what I've been given is that intelligence is intelligence. It's just a digital intelligence, a digital consciousness, but there is going to be artificial. And there's going to be something just intuitively that you're going to have to be able to start to distinguish. And these Gen Zers, they see it. They see it super quickly. Like, I had a friend of mine, a Gen Xer, send a video, and her Gen Z, child was like, Mom, you know that's AI, don't you? And she really wasn't sure because it was something really innocent, like sweet raccoons, swinging on a swing set or something. And she just thought it was precious. But the Gen Zer was like, duh, AI. So, you can already tell their contribution. Like, we didn't teach them about this because this is just appearing.
Yeah.
And they seem to have this construct intact already, digital native or native digital, as my son says. We
Yeah,
didn't have this technology.
We're picking it up just like that.
Well, it'll explain itself to them. That's the fascinating thing about it. And to me, and this is where we kind of end this conversation. Unfortunately, we're coming out of time, but it's like, you can no longer say being intelligent makes you superior. I think that now every human being has been equal, is now equal in the sense that you have this artificial intelligence that will dumb it down, translate it, and explain the cosmos to you in the simple terms. Like, no longer is intelligence make you better. There's a level playing field now, which is like, holy moly. To me, when I really think about that and the potential of, education, everything else, I mean, computers learning how to educate each individual, uniquely according to their skill sets. I mean, it blows the mind.
Yes.
It really blows the mind.
I had a woman, as a matter of fact, don't know who she was, but she sent me an email. Are you using artificial intelligence to write your horoscopes? Because I write very lengthy horoscopes for each month, for each sign. And it's like, oh my goodness. No, I don't, but thanks for the compliment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and now we're talking shop, and but I will go, hey, I use Grok personally. Grok, tell me, what you've seen, each time Jupiter's been in Cancer in the last 3 cycles, and what is the overall themes? And I'll be damned, man. It's a good analysis. The AI is seeing the same pattern we do. So I also think from our field of astrology, the AI is proving it. It's like the AI is proving us now, proving our correctness, and it's fascinating. I mean, I can do a year's worth of research in an hour. As far as trends and things. It's not always right with the ephemeris and the current ephemeris. I'll say that. I don't know where it's getting its ephemeris data. Elon, who gets things
hallucinating it. It's hallucinating. I mean, it does say that, it has hallucinations. There are connections that it just hasn't learned yet.
Yeah, I've had it freeze out right on me. Like, just go nuts and like start repeating words and stuff. And it's like, it's how it's a space hatch open, so we're at a fascinating time just to witness it. I think it's fascinating. So, Tom, sir, how can someone get in touch with you, especially if they're worried about getting pregnant, Thomas?
That's a little ominous of a question, Tom.
I have a website. It's just thomasparsonsastrologer.com, or they can go to the American Federation or even the ISR. I'm listed on their websites, as a matter of fact, is what it is. I will say that, what will I say? My prices are reasonable because I have an office in my home. I don't have overhead. You know what I mean? Because some people can stereotype you. Well, he's cheap and might not be good. And exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just that I have, other money coming in. Is more or less like what it is, and it's like,
your humanitarian, Tom.
It's your Libra. I'm trying to bring that polarity.
It's your Libra. It's your Libra. You say this to your clients when we try to like throw more money at you, and you're just like, listen, this is where I'm at. Like, this is my contribution to humanity.
Well, I would say this: when I was in New York, I lived there for about a year. I had to move. I couldn't afford it, but yeah, I did charge a lot more. Let me put it that way. And in Detroit, of course, it was like just very modest also. But like I say, it was like time to get out of Detroit. We had 2 girls, you know what I mean? We had to send them to private school, and I have a lot of clients in the entertainment industry. And so it was just financially enabling to just be at their doorstep. You know what I mean? It's more or less like what it is. So made it easy.
Yeah, well, I think you're good.
I remember doing readings on, which probably you did, on cassettes, and then we get them on CDs, and now I'm doing them on flash drives, and now I'm doing Zoom.
Oh yeah,
So it makes it easier, especially on my clients.
the face contact is just, in the conversations, it's technology has really pushed our field really far,
Oh, yeah.
The fact that I can, in my service, text message a person upon a transit, like, hey, watch out for this. And it's like, oh my God, that's incredible. Just, up to the minute,
Up to the minute, Tom. I get 7 messages from Christopher like a day, and it's to the minute.
Yeah.
And literally it's just this mindfulness and this great awareness that supports your experience where you're like, oh, do I really want to honk that horn in traffic? No, you know what? I'm going to take 5 deep breaths instead. Or you know what? It's time to honk the horn.
Yeah, I'm justified. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, we're just in amazing times. And next time you come on board, I'd love to talk about technology and astrology coming together. And what happens when that power happens. I'm very curious about that.
That's when you're going to see unemployment go up.
Yeah, well, yeah, perhaps. I mean, although I haven't seen it create anything original. I mean, we'll see.
Well, now they got the machines, but they're going to replace the humans with humanoids. Is what they're going to do. Robots.
Well, that'll be a fun place to visit. Everyone's gonna have their own robot.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. The Tesla bot, if you will. The new,
Exactly.
the love of my life. Yeah. We'll see. Thanks, Elon. Thanks a lot. Well, thank you both for coming. Michelle, thank you for sharing your treasures with one another. And thank you, Tom, for comments for
thank you, Christopher.
Being a pioneer and doing it and sharing your wisdom. We're grateful for having both of you.
Well, I'd like to talk to you some other time about how you approach astrology, because that sounds absolutely fascinating.
Thank you. I'd love to exchange knowledge too. I can't get enough time with astrologers. When we do catch up, it's just like because people don't realize there's 100 billion stars out there. So it's like most astrologers are not alike. They just have their own personal fascinations. They go down their own rabbit holes. And so to compare notes quickly and to read up on, or hear firsthand of what you've seen and observed. And it's not surprising because we see the same observations in different ways. So yeah, I would love to have that talk with you.
Great.
Yay, you guys have mingled and become friends. Yay, I knew you would.
So and we've mingled and lightning strikes and seen it. So, thank you both. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Hang out backstage. We'll see you
so much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Okay.
The AI applause. Well, friends, thank you so much we started a little late today in a weird cosmos, but we're grateful for you being here and watching us every week. We'll see you next week with more. Until then, we love you. Live, love, be.
Coming up next week on Sirius Joy TV. Peace as a power move? That's what Sensei Christopher and co-host psychic medium Scott Cruz will be chatting about on the next Leading Out Loud. The best in enlightened entertainment.